Fox Sports Shoals Friday Night Football Live. We're here with today's podcast. And guys, before I start, I want to tell my grandmother happy birthday. It's my grandma's birthday today, so Grandma, happy birthday. I had to do that, man.
Happy birthday, Grandma.
Thank you, man, and Coach Willis. And today's show, we got, of course, Matt Suleski as my co-host. I'm Mike Ezekiel. We got a special guest today with us in the studio, UNA's defensive coordinator, Chris Willis. Coach Willis, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad you had me on.
All right, Coach. Well, first, let's talk about that game last week, playing Shorter. UNA, of course, got a big win. They're 8-1 on the season now. Got a big conference win against Shorter. And arguably, I'd say that's probably the best defensive performance we've had on the year.
Well, it was good to come out and have that kind of performance. That's an assignment football game. You got to be very disciplined. Somebody's got to take dive. Somebody's got to take quarterback. Somebody's got to take pitch. You can't run a lot of blitzes and different schemes. You got to be pretty simple. And, sometimes simple is not all that bad when you're not, have to be very exotic, I guess, so to speak. But it worked out in our favor. I thought our D-line played well. They kept the O-line off the linebackers, and our secondary played really well. Obviously, they didn't have any passing yards. And good win. That gives us some momentum going into the Thursday night game with West Isle.
Yeah, and let's go over some of those stats real quick against Shorter. You only allowed 121 total yards, which is, I think, a season low. I'm not for sure. Didn't look at Mississippi College before this, but I think that'd be a season low. And this is definitely a season low. You said 0 passing yards, so secondary, great job. They went 0 for 7, of course, throwing the ball. They don't throw a lot, but shutting them down for 0 passing yards, that's a big deal. And the defense didn't even really allow any points. It was the only time they scored was on a botched punt, and we fumbled on special teams. So defense, really good game for them.
Yeah, Coach Wallace joked with me yesterday in the staff meeting. He was telling me, we're only like a little over a point behind being the top scoring defense in the league. And he said, you can blame Pontius for that. And I said, well, can I go out to practice day and let him know that? And he started laughing. But, yeah, this is the third year in a row against Shorter. We beat them 41-0 in 12 and beat them 41-0 last year. And you throw away over the head of the punter, or he dropped it either way. It was really a 45-0, so to speak, game. So, we've had their number. Things have gone well. It's credit to my coaches, Coach Wisdom, Coach Ferris. They've done a great job preparing their guys. And no, they don't throw the ball a lot, but I will say this: when they do throw the ball, they're a big play team. You got to be prepared for it. I know against Delta State, they threw for a lot of yards and was up 17-0 against Delta State throwing the football. So that was a concern coming in. This quarterback that they have is he's a dynamic kid. He's a great guy. I met him after the game. I've met him over the last couple of years. Very good head on his shoulders, a good athlete, and very smart. So anytime you got a quarterback like that, run or pass, he can make things happen.
Oh, yeah, you definitely got to be careful on that. And, I see a little bit of similarity. I don't want to look ahead just in case this doesn't happen, but Shorter, I kind of compared their offense to Lenore Ryan or somebody like that. They love to run the ball out of that bone, and, the quarterback, they don't really throw the ball. But like you said, if they do throw the ball, it's a big play, and y'all did a good job of stopping the big play.
Yeah, very similar styles between the two. The difference would be, obviously, Lenore Ryan's O-line was bigger, a lot more physical. A little bit better athletes, obviously, but this team, anytime you play the option, you don't see it much anymore. We played Mississippi College, who got in it just a little bit, and they got into the shotgun, and then you play Shorter, so you don't really see this a whole lot. It's hard to prepare for. The speed of the game's not the same. There's a lot of cut blocks going on, and it's hard to practice that without getting people hurt. So great job for my coaches getting them prepared.
Oh yeah, very good job. And go ahead, Matt.
Well, what I was going to say was, one thing that kind of stands out when you think about the triple option, and fortunately nobody got injured. I saw a stat before Notre Dame played Arizona State this week. Teams that after playing Navy were 1-6, now 1-7. They lost because so many guys are banged up because they do all those cut blocks and they get you down the field. And so to come out with no injuries, I know you got to be happy with that.
That's definitely a concern. It was a concern. That has happened before. That stat's. That's a good stat to throw out there because it's happened to us before, and not to to make a joke about it, but we watched the film and we had a lot of guys that were upended. I mean, full body flips landing on their head, and it's after a win and nobody getting hurt, we sit back and we kind of laugh and joke with them about getting put on their head. But there were some vicious cuts in this game, and we're very fortunate we did come away with no injuries.
I'm going to date back to last year for a second. You guys went on the road and played Lenore Ryan. I believe if that game had 3 or 4 more minutes, you guys may have found a way to get through that game. You really came on strong in the second half, but you played Shorter the last 3 years. You haven't given up 1 touchdown one offensive touchdown to them, and then you went to Lenore Ryan, and you really kind of struggled in that game defensively. Now I know they're a little better at what they do than Shorter, but why do you think you played this team so well, you played the option so well, but yet you kind of struggled in that ball game?
Well, and that time of the year, just the stage of the game was different. Not to take anything away that wasn't an important game, but seems like when we've caught Shorter, we've caught them after injuries, or we've caught them in a 3 or 4 win season, knowing that if we got on top of them, they would tilt her a little bit and probably, maybe not say quit, but just their lifeline is not as high as like a Lenore Ryan in the playoffs. There's a lot on the line there. Winner advances on, possibly host another playoff game, and just a bigger stage. The game was bigger, and they were a better team. They're clearly a better team than Lenore Ryan. They played for the national championship, and one thing about option football, I don't care where you coach, who, and what athletes you got, if you fall behind 2 or 3 scores, you're in trouble. And unfortunately that day, very rare by Luke that last year, he threw a pick, they returned, I think, made it 7-0. We botched a kickoff return, it went under Lamonte's legs, they get the ball on the 5, so just before we even get off the bus, it's 14-0. And then we actually played pretty good defense, and they come back one time and got a pitch out on us. And, next thing you know, you're just trailing 2-score, 3-score game, and you're trying to fight your way back. And against a good option team, that's not good. I was part of the option team at Delta State when we won the national title, and I remember my coaches always saying, if we get up 2 scores, especially 3, you should put the game away. And kind of Lenore Ryan did that. I know we came back, but it was you're playing on the road, so that you got to throw that element in there. The field was soggy that day for an option football team. It fell right into them. So,
and I'm going to ask one more question. I'll send it back to you, Mike. Coming up this Thursday, you're on the road at West Alabama. Listen, these guys aren't making the playoffs this year. They still have a very dynamic player at quarterback. They're playing their arch rival, their last home game for those seniors. Nothing would make their season than to knock you guys out of the playoffs. And I'm not sure a loss would completely knock you out, but it could. Yeah. But it would make their season a lot better to be able to beat you guys. How are you going to get your guys focused on such a short week going down there on a Thursday night?
That's you've hit everything. I mean, they're 5-5, 1 win away from being 6-5. They're trying to go into the off season knowing that they're a winning team. They've got a couple of big time seniors. You mentioned the quarterback, Caldwell. They got Tuchek. I'm going to tell you, probably the scariest one football player I hate to play against is this quarterback. He's just a great football player. We've had trouble with him over the past 2 or 3 years. He can run, he can throw, he makes a lot happen, and nobody ever really just tackles him one-on-one. With a short week, the thing our guys got to understand is here's a chance to finish out 9-1, which last year we finished out 8-2. We can finish out winning a share of the title, which will get you a ring. Everybody likes to get a Gulf South Conference ring, and so we got a chance to get another ring. It's a ring game, so to speak. Also, it keeps you in position to host a playoff game, and opposed of maybe getting knocked out or having to go on the road. I would think if we got beat, we would probably, one or two things, you're going to get knocked out, or we're going to have to drop all the way down and we're traveling to go play instead of hosting a playoff game. And so our guys understand. I think, today will be our first practice. We usually don't practice on Monday, but we have to today, and we'll see them come over. I think the energy level will be fine, and they understand what's at stake here. I mean, we've got enough leadership, too. They're not going to allow it to happen any other way. I mean, they want to get fitted for a ring, and they want to be conference champions again, and they want to host a playoff game. And we all got a certain foe in our conference we'd like to get back to and play at some point, and the only way you get a chance at them again is you got to take care of business and get yourself in position to play that game. And I think we all know who that is. So.
That's right. And if I'm not mistaken, Coach, I want to throw this out there. I think 2 years ago we were in the exact same position, or we were in that position that they were in. And now they're kind of in the position we were in. Like, we were 5-5 a couple years ago, and they were, if they beat us, they get the conference championship. And now we're in that same position. It just kind of flip flops.
You're right. It's the same scenario. And there was a slight outside chance back then we could have maybe made the playoffs by winning that game. Now, 6-5 is a long shot having 5 losses. But I think if I remember correctly that year, there was a bunch of teams that had 4 losses and 5 losses. It wasn't very many 1 and 2 loss teams, but. You're right. This is a scary team to end the season on in regular season. At their place, it's going to be senior night. I'm sure they're going to have all their seniors come out. And Caldwell knows he's going to go down in the record book with a lot of stats and broke records at that university, but he knows he's probably not ever going to play NFL due to his size. And so he's going to let it hang out, and he's going to do all it takes to win this football game. He also lines up at punter, which is a scary thing. He don't punt very well, but he can take the snap, and you don't know if he's punting or running. You got to prepare for every snap being almost a fake. He's a holder. I've seen him score from the holding position a bunch. Just a scary football player. We got to have a good plan for him.
You're exactly right. And, a couple of players can make the difference. And last year, y'all had a pretty good preparation that week for West Al because Jacob Thomas was a scout team quarterback, and I could really compare him to the quarterback there.
I agree, and that helped us last year. And we're going to try to move some people around at this practice today and tomorrow to kind of simulate that. And to be honest with you, the quarterback we just played, not far as throwing the football, but running the football, very similar style. And you're going to see that. Now, the difference is Caldwell's smart about sliding down. He won't like to take the hit. With this last guy, he would try to – now, he ran out of bounds a couple times, but he would try to turn it, up in there and try to run with it. So we've got a challenge ahead of us. It's not a short week for us, but also a short week for them. So they can't do everything they want to do. We can't do everything we want to do. We just got to focus in on what they do the best and throw in a few wrinkles, not get complicated, and then hopefully on the other side of the ball, and I know they will, they've done a good job all year, cut down the turnovers, eliminate that, and, score their usual 30 or whatever, 35 or close to 40 that they score, and they pretty much have done every week. So,
when I watched this kid play, I watched him last year, the only time I've seen him play, and they played a great game. It took an amazing effort to come back and win that football game. We can always try to compare to somebody at a higher level, but he's got some Johnny Manziel-like qualities.
Yeah.
He really can. He runs around. He's so dynamic. He can throw from any angle. He can roll to his left and throw. He can roll to his right and throw. He can tuck it and run on you at any time. He really does present challenges. And I haven't seen West Alabama play this year. I just looked at some of their scores, and just because of him alone, I'm surprised they haven't done a little bit better.
Well, Coach Wisdom that coaches D-line for me, he knows their staff, and they talk occasionally when we're playing each week, and he's pretty much been a one-man show. I think they've struggled a little bit at O-line play, so he's made a lot of things happen. Now, they do have two really good receivers, a transfer from Kentucky, and then Tuchek, who's been there for quite a while. But the protection, they've had some problems in the protection breakdown. And then on the other side of the ball, and I can't speak for them because I haven't watched them, but they've struggled defensively this year. And that's probably the biggest difference between the West Alabama now and then. Of course, they lost their coach, got a new coaching staff, but defensively, they're struggling over that side of the ball. They're giving up a lot of points. Mississippi College scored 28, I believe, on them. And, that's been the problem. He can't make up for all that difference in the defense. That guy can do a lot, but he can't hold them out of the end zone. He can only do his part, and that's score the points. And, just going to be on the road. It's going to probably be in the 30s. Senior night, they got a chance to go to 6-5, ruin our season. We got to do a good job as coaches in keeping their mind set on what's at hand. And right now, we can't worry about the playoffs, and we can't worry about all of that, where we're going to be seated. All we can worry about is playing a good game and beat West Alabama on Thursday night.
I said I was wanting to ask a question or two, and I get in here, we follow these offensive guys all year. Finally get a defensive guy when I ask these questions. You lost three incredible linebackers off your team last year, and Gabe Poe, now he's on the staff now, but he's not playing, Breon James and Tavares Wilson. And then you lost two very, very good safeties in Caleb Massey and Nick Williams.
Don't remind me.
And you guys have kind of done a few different things. And, Floyd did come in at safety, and he had a lot of experience already. But talk about kind of the growth of your guys. Do you feel like they've really gotten better throughout the season?
That's a great question. I get asked this all the time defensively. Compare this year to last year, and where are the issues, and where we've had some pluses. And no, there's no doubt. We talk about this West Alabama game. If you remember last year, we were making this comeback, and they threw two interceptions inside the 5-yard line, and Tavares Wilson picked them both off. There was playmakers by a big-time player, Division II Player of the Year. We have struggled at times, and where we're struggling at is inside the tackle box, trying to defend the power run game. If you've noticed, we've done really well at rushing the passer. We've done really well at creating turnovers. We've done really well at coverage. We've only given up 5 touchdowns this year and through the air. 12 of the touchdowns have come from the ground. And where we're hurting is right inside the box, between A and B gap, where we've got to play downhill, off blocks, physical, in your face, get off the block, make the tackle. Now, in saying that, I don't want to make it sound like Stephen Rich hasn't done a good job this year because he's second in the conference in total tackles. He should be an all-conference player. In saying that, this is a guy who transferred to us in spring who was playing high safety at Austin Peay. What were they thinking? And so we moved him to Mike linebacker. I wish I had him for another year, because if I did, his best football is still ahead of him. The guys had to transfer in and move from high safety to outside linebacker, which is where we moved him to start with in the spring. And then we thought, you know what, I think he'd be better suited if he was at the Mike. And so we finally moved him to Mike, and he's, as each game goes, he's learning and getting better at the Mike position. So he's done well. I don't want to make it sound like he hasn't done a great job. And we're hurting a little bit at the wheel position. We've been rotating between two guys there. One plays this better than the other. It's one of them things where you wish you molded them together and had one. Where that was Tavares Wilson last year, who could do it all. And then you had Gabe Poe here, who could do it all. And then you had Breon out here that could do it all. So, yeah, we've taken a step back, and where we've hurt is more in the run game inside interior. I think we've got some of the best corners in the game in Division II. I think our D-line is very quick and penetration is very good, but sometimes what people don't understand, just because you're quick at D-line, they can push you. Taylor Carney might get blocked one way or the other, or, because they're just kind of light. They're not very big, but they're quick, and then that creates run lanes. And then when it creates run lanes, you got to get off blocks and make tackles, and that's where we've hurt a little bit this year. And it's safety. Last year, them two safeties were risk takers. They would come down in the box, make tackles. They'd stay back and go on the pass. Not that we're playing well at safety, but you've kind of taken a step back. It's like these guys are still developing. This time next year, they ought to be better. But that's the spot. Linebacker and safety is kind of where we've tilted just a tad. Corner and D-line, we're just as good, if not better. We're better at corner this year by far. And so we have to call defenses a lot of times to cover up the weaknesses. But people coach, and they're on scholarship, and they get paid to coach. And once you get a lot of film on us, people go, all right, this is how you got to beat this defense. And so, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I know this. We're 8-1, very easily from a 54-yard kick, and from Florida Tech running down there, running out of time, and from a 2-minute drive in West Georgia, we could be sitting here possibly, 4-5-4, or something like that. But we find a way to win, and right now that's the main thing. And just like Thursday night, they're probably going to attack us in there. And we got to be able to kind of bend, don't break. If it means give up a few yards to still find a way to win, we'll have to do it. So that's kind of been the mojo on defense.
Yeah, we talked a little bit. Matt brought up the linebackers and the safeties and the secondary that we lost. And one thing we didn't really talk about as much was the defensive line, and they really played well last week. I want to say that they probably had the best performance of their season. And one of those guys that I really noticed was getting to the ball every play was Tyler Smith. And
He got voted player of the game by the staff and Coach Wallace, so he was our defensive player of the game. We do production points. It's based off how many tackles and tackles for loss and sacks. And a lot of times you can grade a guy out. He can grade out at 90% but had 2 tackles. Doesn't mean he didn't do anything wrong or he was just there. And he did his assignment but maybe didn't produce, so to speak. And you can see guys grade maybe in the 80s, but yet they've got 28 production points. That means he's very active, and that's what he was. He had like 28 production points. He was all over the place, and he went in. He knew the game plan. He played it like you coach it, and he had a great game.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of guys that really stepped up. Stephen Rich, of course, led in tackles, and then even Filbert Marshall came in, when they ran outside, and Levi Fell made a couple stops in the secondary, and they did a very good job at the corner position going and making tackles outside.
That's the key in option football. If you go back to Lenore Ryan last year, the reason we struggled is we didn't get good corner play last year. We look back after the fact, you go back and you watch the film, and what happened in the Lenore Ryan game? Well, we should have played the corners differently to help them, and we didn't. And so they were beating us on the perimeter, and they were getting Filbert and them guys blocked. Well, in this game, they couldn't block them. If they did block them, they bounced right back up and made the play. So the corner play is huge in option football. And in talking about Filbert Marshall, let me just say this. I've been coaching now. This is my 16th season, I believe it is. 3 at Delta, and I've been here 13, I believe. It may be a give or take a year there. For as pound-for-pound football player, he may be one of the best I've ever seen her coach. Pound for pound. If he had any size to him, and I mean size for his height, he probably would be playing Division I football.
Now, I actually
heard
that size was really what kept him from playing Division I.
It was. Mark Hudspeth, I coached with, who's at Louisiana Lafayette, they recruited him. And they wanted him as a punt returner, kick returner, and maybe play some defense, but then they were worried about the size. Well, they don't go on him. He visited them, and they dropped him, basically. He's sitting there. We get a last-minute phone call that he's available. We start recruiting him, and long story short, we sign him. Well, I'll never forget when he comes out on the signing list, one of the first coaches that called me up was Coach Hudspeth, and he's like, you guys got Filbert Marshall. He said, y'all just got a great football player. You're going to find out at that level he's going to dominate. And he's right. He has.
Oh, yeah. Like, anytime he steps on the field, you can kind of tell, like, as a punt returner, kick returner, or a defender, like, he strives on being the best player on the field at that time.
So he's got cat-like quickness. And I'm really glad he came to UNA, Coach, because he really did a lot of damage to my high school team. He played at McGill, too, and I played at
That's
Murphy.
right.
One of the oldest rivalries in the state of, I think it is the oldest football rivalry in the state of Alabama. And he did a lot of damage to us. I didn't like him a whole lot. But now that he's here,
You like him. Yeah.
I'm certainly glad.
You know,
he's
he
playing.
did get recruited by West Alabama and a few other Division IIs late, so he had other options, and we were very fortunate. We pulled this guy.
One thing I think UNA has going for themselves is I spent a year at West Alabama. I went down there to play football, and I wasn't very good and got banged up. But coming to school here and went to school there for a little while, the facilities here, the campus. I mean, and I'm not just saying it because I go to UNA and I love UNA. It really is. It's just head and shoulders above what they have to offer. And once again, you have to give Coach Wallace and Coach Hall so much credit for building that team because they really have. We're in the cellar for so long because they have a hard time competing with your Valdosas and your UNAs and your West Georgias because they just don't have the facilities to offer that I think that a school like UNA does and some of the other schools.
You know, when it comes to recruiting, I've been doing it here, like I said, for 13 years, and I cannot tell you, the saying here is, if you ever get them to campus, you've got them. I don't care who they visit and what they've got, if you can ever get them to campus. Now, this was before we got the new weight room built, so that's really going to help us. We used to not even show them the weight room. I'd always act like there were some electrical problems in there. We didn't even go in there. I would bypass the weight room up. But once you get them here and they see that there's numerous hotels and there's all these eating places and there's a movie theater, I think it has, 12 theaters in it, and there's just a place to go get on the water in the summertime, and it does. It's been that way since I arrived in 2002. A kid could go to Valdosta, a kid could come to here and get the same offer, but if you ever got to our campus, we always got him. And not to take nothing away from Valdosta, they're down there in the sunshine, and they've grown, and things are kind of adapting down there. But also what hurts them in some schools is that it's such a high school base down there. It's all about the high school football, and they're kind of secondary. Not that Florence, I love what Florence is doing, and they're doing a great job. I'm not saying that we're first or secondary to them, but here, UNA's football program, especially through the 90s, was established already. Wow. So it's kind of already in place. And so the tradition, along with the city, helps sell these recruits. And, a lot of times you don't have to really show them what you got for facilities because they just see what you got when you enter across that bridge. But now we've got a new weight room, and there's some other things we're adding up and getting over. I think the new study academic center's coming at some point. So it's it really is. We got nice stuff here, and that's why. And I don't want to get on to this conversation, but I do think we can handle a Division I program because of the city, and so that's a whole other topic. I know. So
Coach, you're exactly right about our campus and stuff. Once you get them here,
you got
them. They'll stay. And one other thing too, and I'd have to go look at find a website that would produce all these numbers, or just have to look at a bunch of schools. But I'd like to see where we rank in attendance in Division II every year, because when we have an off crowd one night, we still have 8,000 people.
Exactly.
And as many nights we have 12,000 people in our stadium at full capacity, both sides, a little over 14,000. And our side's filled up, and the home side there. So it's really impressive. I look at some of these other schools. I think West Alabama's have about 6,500 people. Is it showing the attendance or the regional rankings?
I got something here that I looked at the other day. Something
That's
happened.
the new ones, I think, regional rankings.
Well, okay.
I'm listening to you, Dr.
No, you get excited. You see where you're at, Coach. Are those new?
I don't think they updated the regional rankings yet. But
okay, I thought it was.
What I was actually going to look at was, the national championship game over the years for Division II. And I saw a stat the other day. I was just surfing around, and UNA's all three of their national championship games, obviously because they're home games, had high attendance numbers. They had 15,000 people.
They had overcapacity.
So yeah.
But that's just. But still, we're not just playing our home games.
Oh, I know.
We get huge crowds.
I don't know the actual. I don't want to be. I'm close though. I know Jeff Hodges. I want to say told me this, and he'd be the guy to ask. He told me I think we ranked in the top 5. So we're in the top 5 in attendance in Division II out of 160 something schools. So. Whether we're 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, but we rank in the top 5, I think, year after year.
Oh yeah, we have very good attendance numbers. We got a lot of support from the Florence area, and going along with that, you talked about recruiting, and a lot of our guys are, from local teams, and, we've talked about that a lot, and Coach Wallace has kind of had that reputation of recruiting in a 100-mile radius, so, and a lot of your defensive guys are, pretty
Exactly.
close.
We've got a lot of guys local, and, if you notice, most of our out-of-state guys are probably the junior college guys, which are just right over in Mississippi. And that's because I, and along with a couple of other coaches, we know so many of those coaches. I grew up with a lot of them, and so we have great connections. You always want to use your connections. And then, just going back, when you win 3 national titles here, which at that time had been the only school to ever do that, 3 consecutive, and that puts you on. That's put your flag down and make a,
That's right.
What do you call it? A landmark, or not a landmark, but a historic mark. I guess what I'm trying to say. It's here you go. You've done it. Nobody else has done it, and people see that. And then you got the guy here that was there when it happened. He's coaching now, so that helps too.
Well, I think the only other school that's ever done it at the scholarship level, some of the non-scholarship level, Division III, I think a couple schools have done it.
Union.
Mount Union and Wisconsin Whitewater, I think, is on a
Yeah.
roll right now. But until North Dakota State won 3 in a row at the FCS level last year, and Alabama had a chance, they didn't do it. But those were the only. Now that's the second school outside of North Alabama that's ever done it at the scholarship level. So it's not a feat that happens very often. I mean, it's
you just said it twice, I think.
Yeah,
so
and
that's
in the
tough.
history of football.
Yeah, and while you're saying that, they go back to our offensive coordinator now, Coach Cody Gross. He was the quarterback on those 3 teams, and his all-time record was 41-2, and both of those losses were to Division I teams. So I mean, that's
Was
big.
it 2? I thought it was 41-1.
41-2.
Okay, well,
he lost it. If you count, let's see, one of them was Youngstown State when Jim Tressel was there, and the other one I think was Jacksonville State by 2 points. So
regardless, still good record.
both of those games by 5
Yeah.
points. And if you look at it, you look at a guy like Kellen Moore from Boise State, some guys like that who've won a lot of games. Coach Gross ranks up in the top of winning percentages as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And
No
that's
doubt.
a big deal.
It. I wasn't here during that time, but I saw them play. They had some great football teams.
You just talk about UNA and how much, how big it is here. I've met people within this community, and you say, well, you're talking football. Well, who's your favorite team? Well, UNA. Yeah, I understand that, but who's your favorite team? Well, UNA.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I kind of like Alabama, but I care more about UNA than I do them, and so you don't hear that a lot of places. Like my favorite team's Tennessee or whatever.
Yeah.
I love this team, but this is my favorite. Well, here it's like no. I care more about UNA, and that's really impressive to say that. You don't have a lot of Division II fans that I think have that mentality like they do here in Shoals.
Well, I can say this. I've coached here, I think I've said this 3 times now, 13 seasons, and then I go to Delta State where I coached for 3 seasons. And I'm not meaning no ill will towards those people and fans, because I'm a graduate from there. We won a national championship in 2000, and the attendance to start off the next season was no better. Or, the attendance was, what I'm saying is nobody came out no more. It's the same attendance. We didn't draw very big crowds. It was very low, anywhere from 2 to maybe 5,000. I think their attendance has been better over the last couple of years, but it's not the same. I can tell you because I've been at 2 different places, and I can tell you the support and stuff here as far as attendance is above any.
When they played the national championship against Minnesota Duluth in the 2010 season, Delta State did. That was actually now Minnesota Duluth is going to have a hard time bringing a lot of fans.
Yeah.
They're a long, long way away, but still, the attendance for that game was one of the lowest ever. With Florence hosting the national championship game, it was like 4,000 something. But maybe I don't know. I don't know how many people Cleveland.
There it is, man. I actually pulled it up. I found it back in 2010, like you said. Minnesota Duluth, Delta State, 4,000 people.
Yeah.
And 27.
What was
4,027.
So go to the attendance on the 3 championships.
The 3 championships, 1993, 15,631, which is the highest all time, and then 1995 was pretty close, 15,241, and then 1994 had 13,000. So a lot of big numbers there, and if you compare them, you only see you see a few 10,000s, 11,000s, but that got the most.
Just out of curiosity, I just want to know for myself. In 2000, when we came at Delta State, what was the attendance? We played Bloomsburg.
7,123.
Okay.
So
And that's about par for the course. I don't. Is it just a smaller community, or they just?
It's a smaller community, and I think also it goes back to what trends was set back then. It's basketball. They had women's basketball set that place on the map, and it's then the men's basketball got to going, and the baseball program under Mike Kennison with Boo Ferris, they're backing that thing. They've won a championship, so it's almost like football's important and it's up there, but you got these other sports that have kind of made their mark, kind of like football did here, and I think that has something to do with it. And Boy, they're going to be mad when I say this, but it also is a big duck hunting community. So when duck season comes around, everybody's going duck hunting. And, Ole Miss and Mississippi State game and following them two schools, yeah, there's a lot of Ole Miss and State fans, but I don't think it's nothing like we got here with Alabama and Auburn. So, maybe that has something to do with it. But, yeah, it's a smaller community. The numbers are not going to be there just for that reason, too.
And, Coach, I know I told you we'd get you out of here at 1 o'clock. It is already 1:20, so
you're okay.
So I got to hurry up and get you out of here and everything so we can prepare for West Al. We got a short week. I want to go back to the game this next week coming up. We got West Alabama got to travel down there Thursday and try to get the win, to establish ourselves to get that home game, and, that'll be big. And, even if we lost that game, where would you see us? I mean,
oh, man,
it's iffy right now.
I don't think you want to even think about that.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's don't think about that.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That could, like I told you earlier, I think it's either way. I mean, we're either completely out or we're going to drop down to probably the 5 or 6 seed. I don't know. I don't even want to think that.
Let's keep positive. We go down there. Let's get this win, and I think we can do it, Coach. But before we let you go, let me ask you this here. You got your Eagles hoodie on. I know you're a big Eagles fan. They play tonight against the Panthers in Monday Night Football, so I'm pretty sure I know who you're picking here.
Yeah, I'm probably the only Philadelphia Eagles fan that lives in the South.
Yeah,
I get asked this a lot, and it really is just a childhood. I've actually got the pictures. I can prove this. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't prove this." I can. It was 1978. I've got pictures of, basically my family sit me down, and I'm looking, what am I, 4 years old, I think. And back then in the Sears catalog, it was 28 NFL teams. They only had like 10 in the book. So you only had like the selection of 10. And my dad tells me the story, but he said I picked all of them. We sit there and went through them all, and I kept coming back to the Eagles helmet, and he said, "Are you sure?" And I kept picking them. Well, Santa Claus brings me a full uniform of a helmet, shoulder pads, and it had the Harold Carmichael, which, Mike, you're too young to know who that is.
Matt might know.
He was number 7. He was a wide receiver for the Eagles. Well, still, I don't know enough about them, and I just follow them as I grow up. As I'm 5 years old, I'm just, let me turn the TV on, if they were on, and back then they weren't on a whole lot, and I just kept up with them. And each year, I just kept getting a little older, a little more into them. I knew there was a quarterback named Ron Jaworski, who's Jaws. You guys know who that is. And so I kind of it's one of them deals. I just followed them, and I stuck with them through all those bad seasons. They've had a lot of never won a Super Bowl. Been to 2 Super Bowls. I was too young to really remember the first one. But the second one, obviously with Terrell Owens. And so it's kind of one of them deals. I just stuck with them, and I've never give up on them. My 7-year-old, he's a Tampa Bay Bucks fan. He's ready to throw their helmet in the garbage. And so I don't know if he's going to do like me and stick with them, but that's kind of the deal. Yeah, I'm a big Eagles fan, and NFL football is kind of my piece away from college every now and then, just to kind of get away from the college scene. I like NFL. I'm a big NFL fan.
A lot of big NFL fans. I can hear Ron Jaworski tonight right now. After watching about 22 hours of game film this morning, I think Mark Sanchez can really step in and do just fine without Nick Foley. He gets so excited.
Matt, you did pretty good there.
Yeah, he gets excited. I truly believe.
That's
he's excited. So.
I want to hear you John Gruden now.
I can't do it, man. I can do the look,
Under the weather. Under the weather.
I tell you what, and you talked about, the Eagles, that's kind of a weird team to like. I like the Packers, and I've always kept up with them.
What a great game last night. My 5-year-old likes the Packers, so that's a neat little deal. The thing about living down here in the South, our closest NFL team is Atlanta
and
the Titans, and, the Saints are a little bit close. So, and the Titans just got here, I don't know how many years, 15 years ago. So, really, you grew up down here not having an NFL team. It's all about Alabama, Auburn, the SEC. And so, you just, if you're going to join in on the NFL crowd, you got to have a team. I believe you got to follow a team. You can't be a guy that pulls for this team this year and this team. Those get, like I didn't know a Seahawks fan. Now I know 15 Seahawks fans. Okay, well, yeah, because they won last year's Super Bowl. So, and that same guy was pulling for the Pittsburgh Steelers year before. So, I'm all about loyalty and sticking with a team. And I believe I'm going to give my age away here. I'm 40. At some point in time before I go to my grave, the Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl. And so I'm hanging in there with them. So
we hope so.
Is it being a defensive coordinator and you're an Eagles fan? How would you like to prepare against the Chip Kelly offense?
That would be tough. That would be tough.
He's a great coach.
He does a great job. It's the tempo that gets you, and It's going to be fun. I tell you what, Carolina's really good on defense tonight. So, it's NFL, you can get beat any given Sunday. There's
no gimmies in that league.
There's no gimmies. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Exactly right.
They got a guy named Luke Kuechly in the middle. That guy's fun to watch. He gets after it.
It's going to be fun. What I do is I'm going to go to practice here. Actually, in like 1 hour, I go to position meet, and so we prepare for practice. And my routine will be, let's go out, which we usually don't practice on Monday, but we'll go out today. We'll put in about a 2-hour practice. We'll come off as a staff, and we'll meet and discuss that practice, how it went, look at it, discuss, and then 7:30, I believe, is kickoff. We'll turn the TV on. I'll have the volume down, but I'll have it on, and I'll watch the first half at the office, still preparing for West Isle, and then hopefully catch the second half at home if my wife will allow me to watch it.
If your wife will let you. Well, maybe she will, and hopefully they'll do good tonight for you, and you'll get that West Isle preparation in, and we'll be ready to go for Thursday. But Coach, I know we got to get you out of here, so one more question before you go, and I've asked this to all the coaches that come in and all the players. We get different answers, but I'm going to ask you, could you see us in Kansas City in about a month at the rate we're going?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know there's some things we need to get better at on all sides of the ball. We got to quit turning the ball over. On my side of the ball, we got to stop the interior run game we talked about. And that's two big things late in the season, stopping the run and not turning the ball over. Speaking of the NFL, that's all they'll preach going late in the year. So, yeah, there's no doubt. To me, once you get in the playoffs, it's open. Here we go. It starts over, the whole new season. It's a whole new season. You can scrap the regular season, and here we go. And obviously, some home field advantage plays a part in this. There's no doubt I can see us there. Let me just say this. I've coached on teams that have not played as well as this team has played, and we've made it pretty far. I've hit a couple of semifinal games since I've been here, and quarterfinals with teams. I'm like, wow, I was kind of shocked. So this team can do it. There's no doubt we can. We got to overcome a few little things on both sides of the ball, but there's things that we can overcome. So.
Well, good deal. I think we can definitely see them there. But, Coach, we appreciate you coming on the show today. I know you got a busy schedule, and we got to get this win. And appreciate you giving us a little insight on what's going on with the defense. We talked about the Eagles a little bit. We talked about not the team, not the band. Man, we had a pretty good conversation, Coach. Wish we'd have you all day.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's fun. I would like to. If this wasn't a work day going back for practice, I could sit here with you all day. But I'm sitting here answering these questions, but I'm also thinking about tackling number 4. So I got to go find a way to stop him. So.
Let's go stop number 4. Defensive coordinator, Coach Willis, UNA. Thank you.
See you in Livingston, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Matt, we had a good conversation there with Coach Willis, and you can ask any of the coaches. He's just so fun to talk to. I love talking to Coach Willis. I can talk to him all day, man.
I'll tell you what, man, Mike, the little bit of experience I've had just talking to any of them, whether it's Coach Willis or Coach Gross or Coach Wallace, they're all just people's person. I'm butchering that. They're all just good guys. They're easy to talk to, and they're all
about player coaches. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The players coach, they really pride themselves on that. I think all those guys are really good. I wish I could have them all in, and I know we don't have that many shows, but Coach Willis is one of those really good guys to talk to, and he could really give you a lot of information. I mean, he's just so knowledgeable, and we appreciated having him on the show. But Matt, now we got to transition over to high school football because it's the second round of the playoffs, and pretty pumped up about it.
Yeah, there's going to be some big games, some great games last week. You were at a phenomenal game. Obviously, I was tracking a lot of the games. I didn't go to one, but, man, that was some really good action.
I tell you what, the one I went to last week, Deschler taking on Hamilton, man, it came down to the wire. I mean, it was so close, 22-21. And Hamilton actually outplayed Deschler. They had 99 more yards, had twice as many first downs. I mean, Hamilton really played hard in that game. And that running back they have is the real deal, Denzel Mitchell, the Ole Miss commit. He was the real deal, and I think Hamilton's got some potential next year to even come back and have a good season. Had a couple good running backs, but Deschler, of course, down. They were actually behind 3.5 quarters in that game, and finally at the end there, with about a minute to go, they took the lead and won the game. So on a 2-point conversion, might I say. So big game for Deschler in advancing, and we had a few of our teams go out, and a lot of surprises, but one surprise that we didn't really have was Russellville losing to Pleasant Grove at home. We kind of saw Pleasant Grove as a really good team, and Russellville's kind of falling off, man.
Yeah, I picked Russellville in our show last week, and really come down to game time. And the more I kind of watched them, I was thinking about how they played the last week of the season, and obviously after I had Matt Wilson on the show earlier in the year, he kind of gave us some insight into what they're doing, and I really said that I just don't think this team's near as good as I originally thought they were. So no real big shocker there.
But they do have some positive news, though. They got their quarterback coming back. He's only a sophomore this year, Peyton Nichols. He'll be back. Their star running back, Deion Hill, he'll be a junior. Or he'll be a senior. He's a junior now. And then, of course, Austin Kitterman, the guy that got hurt really bad and was in critical condition at one point. If he overcomes everything, he'll be back next year and as a senior. So, man, they got a lot of guys coming back at Russellville. Could make another run.
Yeah, they got a lot to build on, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. And another one of those teams that lost was Wilson. And, man, that's my alma mater. And when I heard the score, I heard about exactly what happened, I was like, man, what a tough team there. And what a way to end. I mean, that's just a heartbreaking ending. But I talked to one of their coaches, Coach Devin Crawford, and, it's just what a way to end it, though. What a season they had. And they really shut down Jason Futrell. He didn't even get in the end zone, but I think he still had 80 yards. And even having 80 yards, that's shutting him down. Like, keeping him under 100 yards is shutting him down. So, Jason Futrell, what a season. But I want to talk about one play that Wilson had. Ben Griffin actually said it best on Twitter, who covered the game from Times Daily. John Rhodes there at the end. I talked to Coach Gross about it too, and Coach Gross kind of described what happened since he was at the game. His son plays. Said that John Rhodes, the fullback, with a few seconds to go, carried the ball on a trap, and he carried defenders for about 8 yards and scored to tie the game with only a few seconds to go to send it to overtime. So man, that's just all heart right there. John Rhodes, he gets a helmet sticker.
Absolutely. And on our Friday Night Football Live show, Fox Sports Shoals 97.9, we actually had a caller call in on our scoreboard edition of the show that was at the game. And yeah, I'll tell you one thing I really respect is that she just sounded so proud of that team and just a real true Warrior fan and just really had the attitude that you love for your fans to have. And I think Wilson will bounce back. I think they can still have a good season next year. Unfortunately, Wilson seems like one of those teams that it kind of takes a couple years to build up, then they're good, then they kind of fall back down. I think one thing that hurt them, and I thought that could possibly hurt them going into that game, is just no playoff experience. Nobody on that team had any experience in the playoffs. And it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new season when the playoff starts. And while certainly you're still playing the game of football, there's just a different atmosphere, a different energy about it. And so I think experience is a lot more key than people think sometimes. I'm not saying that's why they lost the game, but I think early on they got behind. I think that had something to do with it. And they really fought their way back and got into the game. Just couldn't really overcome it. But a great season by the Wilson Warriors. I know this whole community was very proud of that team, and so still had a great season. A lot to be said for that.
And man, although you do have a point about the lack of playoff experience, I still think there was a lot of good performances out of guys. Bubba Allen, the quarterback, he had his best game yet. He threw for 3 touchdowns. The first drive there, he threw an interception against Cordova, but after that, he threw 3 touchdown passes. He had 150 yards. That was a career high for him. So, Bubba Allen went out strong, and of course, John Rhodes, another guy that I mentioned. A lot of those guys, Blake Wood on the defensive line, Cody Wilson, Ryan Crouch, those guys played really hard. And, you hated to see that for them to lose in that kind of style, but, man, what a season they had. But Wilson has a lot of guys coming back, too. They lose a lot of seniors, but they do have a few guys coming back. One of those guys is they actually have 2 guys that kind of transferred in, kind of came in late, and that's Larry Decatur and Dakota Long. They'll be back as kind of wing backs and running back kind of deal. And, Brock D'Elia at linebacker. You got Kyler Stoltz, who plays free safety. And then they got a freshman quarterback that played a little bit this year, which is the coach's son, Coach Scott Brown's son, Tucker Brown. He played a little bit towards the end of the season. And, so they got a lot to build on there at quarterback. And, a couple wide receivers coming back, Jordan Poister. And, of course, Coach Gross's son, Peyton, will be back. So Wilson's got a lot to build on. And I really think they'll have a good few years now. And they got a freshman kicker. It's a good thing to have a kicker in high school football. There's no doubt.
It's a good thing to have a kicker at any level.
That's exactly right. They're kind of hard to come by, so that's a big deal there. Also, another one of those teams that got knocked out in 4A is Central. Central actually surprised us a little bit. We didn't know how good they would do against a tough team like Fayette County, but they put up 41 points on Fayette County, lost 56-41 in an offensive battle there. They competed harder than probably we've ever seen. Elliot Hacker was kind of texting me and keeping me updated. I know he called in on the show for y'all and kind of updated y'all on that. But, man, Clay Chapin, he probably had his best game of the year, 126 yards and a couple scores. So, Central, what a way to end it for them, too.
Yeah, well, they got behind about 35 or 42-7 They really fought back in that game. I can't think of the running back's name for Fayette County right now. Elliot was telling about him.
Knowles or something.
I think
like
he
that.
ran for over 300 yards, and he said
yeah.
they just couldn't tackle the guy. I believe he's a Division I commit. I don't like to throw a stat I'm not 100% sure of, but he's a very good running back, and I know that for a fact. And they just couldn't handle him. They did a lot to kind of fight back. They've got a lot of running backs. You mentioned Clay Chapin. They also got Denton Chandler, Cameron Brown, Isaiah Skillshed or something. Skillstad. And he's only a freshman, and some of these other guys are juniors. So they're a team. They lost their quarterback, but their quarterback wasn't their strongest asset of their team to begin with. They are losing Jonathan Hacker, Elliot's little brother. He's kind of a D-tackle fullback. He scored 2 touchdowns carrying the ball in that game, and he's a tough defensive lineman. I know he's getting looked at by Mississippi College, so another very good player. But they got a lot of guys coming back. Their offense should be able to run the football very well again next year. I really thought when they played Brooks, it was a win-or-go-home game 2 weeks ago, and I felt like that was the game of the year. They could really kind of cement their season because I didn't think whether it was Brooks or Central they were going to get out of the first round.
You're exactly right, and that really cemented their season and really helped them. And then, like you said, they do have a lot of guys coming back. One of those guys I really want to single out is Skillsat, the running back, who's only a freshman, who really contributed towards the end of the season. And I think he'll be good for them here in a few years, and he's really going to lead that team. You got Cameron Brown as a senior, Denton Chandler will be back as a senior. A lot of those guys, some of those guys play both ways, so Central's got a lot to build on, even though they are losing Jonathan Hacker and their quarterback Patrick Langston. So, a lot to build on for Central. And another one of those teams that really shocked me, this was the biggest shocker for me in the first round, was Lexington. Lexington, of course, we underestimated them just because they were a 4 seed and they were playing a 1 seed in Oakland. And we kind of thought Oakland was a little better than they were. They looked better on paper, but of course Lexington, we got to give them credit. They played in the hardest region, arguably pound for pound, in the entire state, Class 3A Region 8. And 3 of those teams advanced, and almost 4 of them did. Lexington barely lost, though, 35-28. Matt, I want to tell you how close this game really was, because I didn't know it was this close. Have you seen Friday Night Lights, the movie?
Mm-hmm.
You know how that game ended, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Winchell tackled on the 1-yard line. This is about what happened here. This was the last play of the game for Lexington, and Wes Shirley, the quarterback, he's really made a lot of big plays. They played Rogers in a non-conference or non-region game earlier in the season. He scored the winning touchdown with less than a minute. Wes Shirley again here, he fell short inside the 1-yard line. I heard he was 6 inches away from scoring, and that's how they lost the game. So, man, Lexington almost advancing, so close.
What a great effort by Lexington. Like you, Mike, I picked Oakland big. I think I said 56-10 or something. I mean, I didn't give Lexington much of a chance in that game. They do play in a great region, and the other 3 teams that did advance, they advanced easily.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they all won handily. So, they did, and they moved up from 2A to 3A. So, West Shirley's a very dynamic player on both sides of the ball. I know earlier this year against Sheffield in a game that was almost a play-in game for that 4th spot, they were up 48-40, and he'd already contributed big time on offense and gets a pick 6 to kind of finish that game off 55-40. He's a very, very good football player. I think he is a senior, and he's going to be done there. But Lexington had a good year, and to move up to 3A to even get in the playoffs there and then almost pull the upset, it was a great season. They have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, let's give Lexington a helmet sticker. I guess I'm just giving it helmet stickers all day, but
do we even have any stickers?
Let me see if I can find some. Well, I'll round those up for you, and I'll mail them to Lexington High School. But anyway, man, I'll tell you, West Shirley, they're going to lose him as a senior, and then, of course, they're going to also lose Tristan Clark, another guy for them. But one guy they do have coming back, we've talked about him, Dakota Saint will be a senior next year. Big guy coming back for them, and also another guy, they got a middle linebacker coming back, junior Ethan Puntman. He's been big for them. And then they had a running back, too, that played a little bit. Sophomore Isaac Fulton. He'll come back as a junior. And I'm excited to see what that team does in a year or two. So we'll see how Lexington does. But just came up short. And, they're in a tough region. But I really think that actually helped them, playing those tough teams. And it helped them get better and prepare for that game. And they nearly beat Oakland. And, we hated to see them lose that way. A heartbreaking way to end the season for them as well. But, Matt, we did have 5 teams advance. And we'll break down those games real quick. We got Florence, Muscle Shoals, Deschler, Lauderdale County, and Colbert County. So, if you notice something there, a couple of those teams from Class 3A, Region 8, and of course Madison Academy, we don't really cover them as much unless they play each other. But, 3 of those teams advancing there from that region, and another one, Class 6A Region 8 had 3 teams advancing. Hartselle was that 4th seed there, remember. They only lost by 4 points. They lost 25-21 to a 1 seed, so I almost had all 4 of those teams go too. But Class 6A Region 8, very tough as well. And Florence was the winner of that region, don't forget. And they get to face a team they faced earlier in the season in the second round of the playoffs. They'll be playing Shades Valley.
Yeah, they lost a very close game, 37-35.
It was 38-36 or 37-35? One or the other.
The high scoring game, very, very close. I think Florence, they beat a good Bob Jones team, 7A, come from behind in that game. They did lose 37-7 to Starkville, and we haven't tracked Starkville since that game, at least I know I haven't. But they were number 1 in the state of Mississippi, and I think MaxPreps.com had them at number 23 in the nation. Mm-hmm. And so Florence, a very good football team. I mentioned that middle linebacker they have often, Keaton Anderson, committed to Alabama. He comes from a lineage of really good players. His dad played at Tennessee. I believe his brother did as well. He really anchors the middle, really big in shutting down Briarwood Christian last week. And Briarwood Christian, year in and year out, is a very good football team, even though they were only a 4 seed this year. But Florence had absolutely no trouble with them. I got Florence 38-35 over Shades Valley. They lost, I think, 37-35 earlier in the year, the opening game. I think this week they got them at home. That game they were on the road. I think they're going to win the close one this time.
I like your pick there, Matt. And I think the difference maker in that game, if you go back to that first game of the season, they were on the road. Now they're at home. They get Shades Valley at home, and I think that really makes a factor playing at Brawley Stadium. Of course, Shades Valley, one of the teams they played they played Arab last week in the playoffs and shut them out 34-0. So that defense is pretty tough, but I really think Florence is going to exploit their defense, and I think Florence will win the game. I'm going to say 28-27, 1-point game. Florence wins it and advances to the third round. I really like Florence and what they're doing, man. I really think they've gotten better. And if we look at the playoff bracket real quick here, Florence, if they advance, they'd either play Homewood or Gardendale and then get somebody in the CMA final. But Florence looks really good, man, and I really think they'll win this game. Another one of those teams, the 2 seed out of 6A Region 8, Muscle Shoals, they advanced last week. They beat Minor 42-20. And Muscle Shoals, they, we talked about it last week. They kind of got a tough draw this week with Clay Chalkville, Matt.
Yeah, they really do. Is Clay Chalkville the number 1 team in the state?
They are, even over Hoover. They actually over Hoover. Like, if you put 6A and 7A together, I think one of the websites did and had Clay Chalkville number 1.
Oh, wow. Well, Muscle Shoals moved up from 5A to 6A this year. They were the 5A state runner-up last year, as I've mentioned before. Very good football team. They kind of started slow this year. I think part of it is they had a lot of new key players on their team. I also think part of it is they just moved up to a higher class with a little better competition. But Coach Scott Baston, as always, he gets that team rolling. They have a beautiful new stadium out there. They had a first-round playoff game, took care of business in a big way. So I really like Muscle Shoals and what they've done this year. But I think they're about to run into a buzzsaw this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're going to go to Clay Chalkville, and I think this is where Muscle Shoals season comes to an end. I think they'll go out there and compete, but I've got it 45-24. I think just too much Clay Chalkville, and I think they'll find a way to not find a way. I think their athletes will get it done and just kind of stretch that lead out and take care of business.
Matt, I got to agree with you there. If you look at MaxPreps.com, Clay Chalkville is ranked number 20 in the entire nation. In their rankings, the excellent 25 is what they call it. But they're number 1 in the state of Alabama, and man, just what a tough team. And year in and year out, you always see Clay Chalkville at the top, and they're always competing. But Muscle Shoals, like you said, they came on late, and they won some big games. But man, the way they played Florence, I think, is one of the games that you could compare them to is against tougher teams and tougher echelon teams. And I just don't know how they're going to match up with Clay Chalkville. But I think Clay Chalkville will pretty much win this game. I'm going to say 42-21. I think Muscle Shoals will be in there for a half, but I think Clay Chalkville is just a little too powerful, and I'm going to pick them. And they're actually my favorite to win the state. And we got 3 more games here. Deschler gets a home game this week. Like I said, against Hamilton, they pulled out a close win, and now they get to take on Sachs, a team moving up from 3A. And what a very good quarterback Sachs has. Like last year, I think Sachs was the team that put Colbert County out of the playoffs in the quarterfinals. So Sachs, they made a pretty good run, and now in 4A, Deschler was 3A a year ago as well, and I don't know. This is a toss-up kind of game, Matt. Who do you like in this game?
Well, I kind of went back and forth thinking about this game, but Deschler it's kind of one of those catch-22. Do you say, well, last week they found a way to win, I like their momentum, they're going to keep it rolling, and you say, well, they really struggled with an average Hamilton team, pretty good Hamilton team, but still fairly average. Took a 2-point conversion, late touchdown, 2-point conversion, even get over the hump in that game. Therefore, I'm going to take Sachs to go on the road. Even though I said that all year, I thought Deschler was a real contender for 4A. With the playoffs starting, they showed me maybe they're not quite as strong as I thought they were. Because as strong as the 3A Region 8 is around here, I don't think the 4A Region 8 is near as strong if you look at statewide. So I think Sachs is going to come up here and get a win. I got it 31-20.
Matt, you're exactly right about moving up from 3A to 4A. If you kept Deschler there in 3A, that would by far be the toughest region in my opinion. But now they're in 4A, and we kind of did find that out last week that they were a little weaker than we thought, because Region 5 really kind of got 3 wins there, and Region 5 was really good. And Deschler almost lost it to Hamilton. It was so close.
They got 3 wins over our region, and then in the one game they didn't win, their 4 seed lost by 1 point because of a 2-point conversion. So they almost just swept it clean there. So I just think that our region, our 4A region, just isn't very strong.
Yeah, and I really think Sachs will get the win as well, man. I think they're going to come in on the road. They're going to win 35-28 is what I got. And Sachs, really good team, and they really competed last year for a state championship. I think Madison Academy actually put them out. So, I'm going to go Sachs in this game. And I thought Deschler may have had a chance to make a run, but I think Sachs will end it here. We got 2 more games. Lauderdale County in 3A. They're going to be going on the road this week and take on Glencoe. Glencoe, one of those teams that, they're undefeated on the year. Glencoe, a very good team, and out from that Sand Mountain, or not Sand Mountain, little kind of like the Anniston and the Oxford area. Glencoe, out from the east side, and if you talk about the eastern compared to the west side of Alabama, they don't really have as much competition there as say we do here. Especially Lauderdale County playing in a tough region as they do with the Madison Academies and Calvert Counties. Glencoe's a very good team, and I could really see this game going either way, Matt.
Yeah, I can too. And even though Glencoe's undefeated, I think they're going to get defeated this week. Lauderdale County beat Vinemont in the first round last week. Vinemont was a 3 seed. Lauderdale County beat them 54-6. I mean, just pummeled them. I think that running game they have with Zach Zimback and that strong offensive line, I think they're just really, really tough. I think they're going to be able to impose their will on Glencoe this week. And I actually like Lauderdale County to actually win that game pretty solidly. I got it 34-21. I think this region is going to show just how good they are when Lauderdale County goes on the road and beats an undefeated team.
And now, Matt, I do think Lauderdale County is a very good team and a very good region. But, Matt, I like Glencoe. And from what I've seen, Matt, they've really won some close games. And one of those games, they beat Piedmont 31-28, another playoff team. And then Sylvania kind of made the playoffs, beat them 56-19. And Glencoe just undefeated. They ran through their schedule. Their games were not as tough as Lauderdale County's games, arguably, but Matt, I really think Glencoe will come in. They're going to be at home. That's a big factor, and I think Glencoe's going to get the win here, 23-20, and I'm going to keep it close there. Lauderdale County, a very good team. I can see Lauderdale County winning on the road, but I'm just going to go Glencoe here, Matt. And let's end it with this one. Calvert County, of course, I picked against them to lose to Winfield last week, and of course I was wrong on that. And they're going to be taking on Plainview. And, Matt, I don't know how much you know about Plainview, but Plainview's actually, Jeremy Pruitt, the defensive coordinator for Georgia, who came from Florida State. His dad's actually the coach there, and that's where he played at, Jeremy Pruitt did. And I think his brother, which is the coach's son, plays there as well. So Plainview, kind of a family tree there of Pruitts, and they're going to be taking on Calvert County. And Calvert County is actually going to host the game. So, Matt, who do you like in this game?
Once again, I'm kind of just picking with the region. I think the region's just that good, and I think Culver County's very good. Went on the road last week. I picked them to beat Winfield, and I didn't pick them. They really dominated that game. I just thought they'd win. They won, 20 points or so. So I really like Culver County this week. I don't know much about Plainview. As a matter of fact, kind of what you said is brand new to me. I've just kind of looked at their record and what they've done. But I like Culver County this week. Home game, 31-20.
31-20, and I'm actually going to keep it a little closer. I'm going to say 21-20. I think Calvert County will do just enough to get the win. And, we had question marks about how they played against Brooks, coming into the playoffs. And then they go out, they get a big win. I think it's 49-30 or 49-31 or something like that, beating Winfield and pulling out a huge win. And they kind of led that entire game. And just really, if Winfield was playing from behind the entire game. But Calvert County, very good team. I can definitely see them getting the win here and advancing to play the winner of Lauderdale County and Glencoe. And what a game it would be. Lauderdale County versus Calvert County in the quarterfinals, man. What a game that would be.
And it'd be Lauderdale County and Colbert County?
It would, if both of them won. So.
Wow. Well, Lauderdale County took care of them earlier in the year, but I think Colbert County's gotten better as the years went on, so it'll be a great matchup. I hope we get to see it. Right now, I think we will get to see it.
Hopefully, I wouldn't mind if that did happen. I think that would be such a great game. What an atmosphere it would be. Colbert County would be looking to get revenge there, and I think if you look at last year, I think it kind of worked out that way. Lauderdale County and Colbert County. Lauderdale County won the regular season, and I think Colbert County beat them in the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but man, that could definitely happen. And if Lexington would have won, and that could have been Madison Academy and Lexington in the quarterfinal, and that would have been all Region 8 there. So that would have been kind of cool, but. But, and then a semifinal, if that actually happened, would be Madison Academy versus the winner of that game. So we could see a Region 8 semifinal even. So it's very possible, Matt. Anything's
I don't think Madison Academy's losing. So.
Oh, I don't either, Matt. And they're actually still my favorite in 3A. Before we wrap up the show here, let's go over our favorites real quick. Class 6A, I said Clay Chalkville was my favorite at the beginning, and I'm sticking to it.
Clay Chalkville.
Clay Chalkville. What about 5A, Matt? You got some teams in there. Russellville got knocked out, and I said it there earlier. I said St. Paul's, and of course they got a big win, 57-14 last week over Helena. I still like St. Paul's from out your way.
Yeah, I said Viger. I'm not even sure how they did last week.
That Viger actually got knocked out by Calera by 1 point or 2 points, 28-26.
Well, there goes my pick. So I'm gonna jump on the St. Paul's bandwagon.
All right, I hear you. You go with the Mobile teams then, okay? And we go 4A now. That one's kind of tall. That's a toss-up, and I'm going to keep it in the South. I'm either going to say UMS Wright or Leeds. I said Leeds earlier. They won 41-0 last week. I'm going to stick with Leeds, and I think it'll probably be them and Oneonta in the championship.
I like UMS Wright.
UMS Wright.
Coach Terry Curtis has been doing a long time.
He has.
He knows what he's doing down there.
He's won a lot of championships too, so that's a very valuable pick. 3A, I just said Madison Academy. I really think they're going to win that. And another team out of the South there, the South Sub-State region, Gordo. Gordo's actually really taken off. They're undefeated, and they got a big win last week, 47-6. They got Pike County this week. I say Gordo or T.R. Miller, one of those two teams playing Madison Academy in the championship. But I like Madison Academy
to win it again.
I think they could be some 6A or 7A teams. And then 2A, Matt. We don't really have any 2A teams in our cover area anymore, but Tanner's one of those favorites. But one of the teams I looked at comparing to the Sand Mountain teams that Lauderdale County and Colbert County got to play, Fife was one of those teams, and they just dominated everybody, and they're a 2A team. Fife, I would have to say, may be the favorite now, in my opinion.
Man, I couldn't give an honest guess because I just don't know enough about any of the teams. We don't have any here, and so I would just be throwing darts if I picked anybody.
And I want to wrap it up with 1A real quick. The game I'm actually covering this week for Times Daily, since we only have 3, and I'm kind of the 4th guy that gets a game for them. And I think I'm going to actually be sent to Hubbardsville versus Phillips. And Phillips is actually kind of close to us. That's my girlfriend's alma mater. So I would probably be in trouble if I didn't pick Phillips. Phillips for state. How about that?
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. But I got Hoover in 7A. We didn't pick a 7A, but I got Hoover to repeat.
Yeah, Murphy got knocked out last week. That was your team.
I don't want to talk about it.
I might go Fairhope, man.
They're good.
I might go Fairhope.
They're good.
I think they'll make a run. But, Matt, let's wrap it up there. 5 good picks. We picked Lauderdale County and Glencoe different. We'll see how that one handles that way. But as we wrap it up, a lot of good stuff going on at week 2 of the playoffs and round 2. And we'll see who advances to the quarterfinals. But as we close here, for Matt Suleski, we got Jaleesa in the studio. Appreciate her being with us again. She does a great job for us, Matt.
She does. She does a great job. She does a great job here. She does a great job on the Fox Sports Shoals Friday night football show, the pregame and the scoreboard show. So I don't think that place could run without her.
Yeah, and y'all can check out Jay, and you can check out Matt and Jimmy O or David, whichever one's in there at the time. You can check them out on 97.9 FM and 1340 AM for your pregame and postgame show on your way to your playoff game. Or if you just want to listen in and give a call and talk some SEC football, I'm sure Matt will be willing to do that. So,
Always willing.
Always willing. So as we wrap it up, we had Coach Wells on the show today. So for him and for Jay and for Matt, I'm Mike Ezekiel. You've been listening to Fox Sports Shoals Friday Night Football. Happy birthday, Mama!